Dr. Randy Tobler, freedom fighting radio host extraordinaire, and MD. Dr. Tobler, you're calling us from the Liberty Lair. You're back up, I believe, in beautiful Northeast Missouri. You went coast to coast across the state over the last week.
Yeah, we're at the Liberty Lair, my well-fenced, highly bunkered, well-provisioned, well-armed, and highly concealed compound here in Northeast Missouri.
And now the three of us know where we're going.
Because the black copters will be flying over shortly,
Randy, we'll be all heading your way when Armageddon strikes and Joe Biden and Kamala Harris start destroying America. So.
Yeah, well, I told my family, I'm from St. Louis originally. Family lives there, and I told them if when the BLM and Antifa crowd come knocking at your door out in Wildwood, because it's going to probably come to a neighborhood near anyone that is listening, whether you're in Springfield, St. Louis, Kansas City, in rural Missouri, it doesn't matter. I think there's a high chance that depending on the outcome of this election, we may have some Armageddon in the streets. So yeah, Tim, come on up. I'll send you the secret code. Not a problem.
Yeah, fantastic. Dr. Tobler, what is the problem with the maybe that's a rhetorical question. What is the problem with the liberal left these days that they can't decry this and Donald Trump, of course, gets yelled and screamed at anytime he refers to this behavior as animalistic. But what else would you call it when people are literally destroying their own cities, right? These are cities that urban Democrats have run for 50 plus years. I think some of these folks that come in to do this damage are bussed in from other places. I think a lot of this is AstroTurf and not grassroots. But Randy, they're destroying businesses. They're causing people to board up their businesses, shutter them, and leave town. They're literally throwing Molotov cocktails into federal buildings. They're attacking the police. As Tucker Carlson and Rush Limbaugh, who we've been playing quite a bit this morning, have said, our very institutions in America are under attack, and many of them in urban America have already been destroyed. Why can't decent Democrats, and Randy, I think you and I both agree there's plenty that still exists, why can't they call out this incredibly radical behavior?
Well, I think it's fear. I mean, if you look at the whole Democratic mantra these days, I mean, if you look at the campaign of Biden and Harris, if you listen to Kamala Harris, I mean, she is like Chicken Little, and she personifies the whole basis on which the Democrats and I think liberal progressives want to do everything from turn every one of our cars into electric machines to, lock us all down. And so it's fear. And I think the reason that they don't decry things like, I'm sure you saw it, and I tweeted it out the other day. I was horrified by that video of the Philip Anderson, the young black man who leaves Team Save America out in the free speech protests in San Francisco. He had his teeth punched out by a group of Antifa people. Here were some peaceful protesters saying enough with Google and Facebook, censoring and not getting news stories out there that are pivotal and very important. And all of a sudden, like a swarm of bees, a bunch of Antifa, cowardly Antifa masked people come in. They won't even let their faces be seen. And now, of course, they can use COVID as an excuse, but that's all it is because long before COVID they were masked. And they beat this guy, silly with a uppercut to the teeth. And I begged, where was Joe Biden? Where was Kamala Harris? Where was Chuck Schumer? Where was Nancy Pelosi? Now, I don't monitor their Twitter feeds 24/7, but I have not seen them on any news channel, and I do monitor those as best I can. I have not seen anything where they come out and say, this is ridiculous. We decry this. We absolutely, or where is it? They don't denounce it, but yet Savannah Guthrie can repeatedly, incessantly, rudely interrupt the president, asking him to, again, for the 100th time, denounce white supremacists. I mean, it is worse than Orwellian. I mean, it's fictional. It's so hard to believe that this is a reality, Tim. And I agree with you totally. And you know what? I've talked to so many people over the past week or so. They're beginning to see through that light. And people who are, I heard Bonnie talk about, those people who may be a little bit persuadable and do the debates make a difference or not. I think when people see that basically you're tacitly approving that kind of behavior, BLM, Antifa, you're tacitly approving that if you don't decry it, denounce it strongly, vociferously, every time. And I think that's going to come back to bite it. More and more people have told me that, I can't tolerate that. If these people can't even, if they're so pandering to that radical base, I cannot support that. It's too risky. And I think there's a 20-30% chance, Tim, that there's going to be a landslide for Donald Trump. I didn't think that a month ago, but you may see a landslide for Trump. And I told my wife the other day, she's in the other room, she's not listening because she gets so, because I'm known for truth and authenticity. I've told 2 online polls and a push poll on the telephone. I'm voting for Biden-Harris, and I think I'm not alone. I don't think I'm alone. What do you say, Tim?
Interesting.
I think people are doing that across the country.
Yeah, Randy. Jason has had a statistic of like 68% of people are terrified to basically say who they're voting for fear of retaliation. Randy, you mentioned a potential landslide. I've heard other people say that. I've had centrist friends of mine. Some are even made a little center left. They're like, I was with one of my old Democratic friends last night, catching up with him, hadn't seen him in a long time. And he said, Tim, I voted for Biden because I just can't do the Trump thing. He goes, however, he said, I think Biden loses. He said, he's one of the worst. He goes, I thought Hillary was the worst. Biden is the most uninteresting, uninspiring candidate. He goes, I don't even know why I voted for him. I just can't do the Trump thing. He's an old blue dog, Truman Democrat. He's kind of stuck in his ways, but he believes, he listens. He loves listening to me on the radio. He says, boy, you're making more and more points the older I get. I said, Jess, you're going to have to live just a little bit longer. I'm going to bring you over to the completely over to the good side, and you can vote R next time. But he also said that Kamala Harris was a horrible VP pick. He said this ticket, I just don't see anything for it. Do you think, Randy, do you think that's where this potential quiet storm is coming from, where people are just the enthusiasm gap for the president with these rallies? You cannot. The media is ignoring it, but I don't think the American people are.
No, I agree with you. I am buoyed by the fact that Republican registration in several states is just up much more than Democrat over the last few years. So that's a good sign. The sign, when you look at the how do you reconcile the poll that came out from Gallup, where 56% of people say they're better off now than they were 4 years ago, and yet Donald Trump is down in the polling, and it just doesn't make sense. And I think there's a much larger silent majority than I think most people are thinking about. Now, that said, I think the last 2 weeks is going to tilt the game one way or another, from potentially a close game with Biden winning to a landslide for Trump. And what I mean by that is, starting with the debate tomorrow, Trump needs to stop pandering to his base. And I'm saying that in the kindest way. I mean it with all due respect to the man. He doesn't. You've mentioned the people that are attending those rallies can tolerate some of his antics. They understand it. They view it as entertainment. God love Rush, and God bless him, and Godspeed to him. But people for so long have thought that Rush is serious half the time when he's just kidding. And I take Donald Trump a lot the same way. But a lot of people who are persuadable and are in the middle and can change the election to a solid Trump victory, and would probably be willing to on a policy basis, still have trouble with the fact that he is just like a little, I think Bonnie said it, like a little, junior high kid in the cafeteria. There's no better analogy. The spotlight has to be on him. He's got to be the class clown. If he can somehow listen, if one of his handlers can get to him and say, look, I know it's hard for you, Donald. I know it's really tough, but try to be presidential as best you can. And when Joe Biden tells a lie, do what you did with Hillary Clinton. Just say, wrong, and let him then destroy himself. Remember in that famous debate with Hillary? He just, wrong, liar.
Yep.
Yes.
That's the way he fought back in 2016. He goes on too far, I think, sometimes. And again, you and me and most of the folks that get it about Trump and that policies matter over personality,
right?
We're okay with it. But there's too many people that need to see a little moderation. And if he's able to do that in the next 2 weeks, starting tomorrow night, I think it's game over.
Jason's got a question for you, Randy, based on these. We just looked up the debate topics, and Jason, our news director, wants to ask you about the inherent media bias in the topics themselves before we even freaking get started with this thing.
Hey, good morning, Dr. Randy. I was talking to Tim about the fact that normally the third debate is about foreign policy, where Trump has a significant advantage over Biden. But the topics for this debate are going to be fighting COVID-19, American families, race in America, climate change, national security, and leadership.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's nothing. All those topics, I mean, they seem to have been handpicked to try to bump up the Biden campaign, doesn't it?
I think you're right, but again, Donald Trump is no fool. And I think on the flight from whatever rally he is coming from to the debate, because it's been reported he's not debating, he's not preparing a lot, he would be wise to just pull out. Someone would be wise to give him the Cliff Notes version of the Biden-Sanders manifesto and just underline the very points on all of those topics that are so far left radical, so far out of the mainstream, except for the Antifa, BLM, some of the Joy Behar and CNN crowd, that all he needs to do is read the Democrat platform. And that's really, he should just bring that up with him and say, well, they're going to turn everything into electric by 2025, so there go 2 million jobs, okay? And when it comes to families, under the Biden tax plan, the Wall Street Journal and Hoover Institution at Stanford says that American families are going to be down $6,000 within the next decade per annum. And just go back and do a jiu-jitsu with them and use their own policies against them. It's right there in the Biden-Sanders plan.
Fantastic. Always great doing mental jiu-jitsu with you, Dr. Tobler. Folks, you can follow Randy at Randy Tobler MD on Twitter. Always brings the heat there as well. Doc, thanks for everything. Have a great day and a good week ahead. We'll talk to you, excuse me, we'll talk to you next week as we head into 1 week before the general election. Unbelievable, right, Doc?
All right, we'll do that. I heard that cough. You better get a nasal swab today, Tim.
I got a frog in my throat this morning. Yeah. Thanks, Doc. Have a great day.
See ya.